What's going on, everybody? A little bit of a change here to maybe the way we do these episodes and just kind of the outlook. Obviously, they were doing one this week, and I've been kind of thinking about it like I do one on Monday and I do one Fridays, but it doesn't really give anybody enough time to listen to it before the games start. For football, that is. Mondays are probably the best ones that people will listen to because it gives you the recap. So I figured, maybe we do something like, hey, put it in the middle of the week, like a Wednesday, Thursday. Then you're right before the game starts on Thursday. You get all the previews for Friday. Sure, I won't get, all the 100% injury updates and know all the statuses of every player going into the game right now, but I mean, I feel like right now, if we just do one a week, it helps everybody get a chance to listen to it and not feel like they're having to get caught up on two different episodes or just one. Because my whole idea was this to be kind of like a mini sports center for people that don't get to watch everything, but everybody could just look up stuff on their phone instead of listening to like a 40-minute podcast. So instead, I think we're going to just do one a week. One big long episode, like an hour episode. We're going to split it into parts of the episode. I'll do timestamps for sure now since I have more time to do things for the podcast. We'll kind of do something like that. And that way we're able to cover everything during the week. Maybe when basketball starts, we do 2 a week, depending. Maybe we do a weekend episode, then a midweek episode. We'll find out maybe kind of as we go there. But I think right now, for the time being, we're going to test something out. We're going to try to do one a week. One big long episode, and kind of just see what you guys enjoy of it, because then it allows you to take a break after listening to the football one if you want to listen to basketball and stuff later, or if you want to split up the NFL and the college football, whatever, or you just want to listen to the picks at the end of the show, that's fine, whatever. Just wanted to give a new outlook on this, just to kind of see what kind of works the most, what everybody enjoys, and what I kind of enjoy doing, because at the end of the day, I'm doing this for my enjoyment. Rather than I'm not getting paid for this at all. This is for my enjoyment and your guys' enjoyment if you listen to this, which, again, I don't know how many of you guys listen to it. I don't really know the numbers right now, and I don't really care. I've always said that that's not my number one priority is the numbers. I said I was going to do this until I didn't want to do it anymore and got bored of it, and I'm having a good time doing it. I just want to make it – I feel like I'm doing too much in 1 week when I could just all consolidate it into one and make it a little bit of a, more of a podcast rather than a talk show, or more of a talk show podcast rather than a Sports Center highlight reel, whatever, get the point. Anyways, this is your Sports Digest. I'm your host, Alex McNinch. I know we're about 3 minutes into the episode, but I wanted to get that off my chest first, just so people are like, oh man, did I miss an episode? Did I miss this? What's going on with this? I wanted to explain that at the very beginning, so that everybody is aware. If you do listen, again, I don't know how many people do, but if you do listen, I greatly appreciate it. If you have it on a white noise in the background, this is probably the worst background noise of all time, but I appreciate you at least showing some love anyways, in a time where it's much needed. So I appreciate you guys right now, but we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm kind of glad I didn't do an episode Monday before the Monday Night Football game, because now we have a big topic to talk about. Normally beforehand, we'd go through every single game, kind of talk about it. Right now, I think we're just going to hit some big points. And the first big point obviously happened on Monday night. Fourth play of the game of the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills game. Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles, and no one is more devastated than Jets fans besides me, who has him as his starting quarterback in fantasy. And it's funny, on Sunday night, I literally said to a bunch of my buddies who were all in the same league, I was like, you know what? I'm just happy that I made it past week 1 without anybody getting hurt. And let alone my quarterback tears his Achilles the next night. Like every single year, a star player for me or one of my biggest producers have always gotten a season-ending injury like the first week or two. And what do you know? Obviously, when I have the win this week potentially locked in, Aaron gets hurt, I end up losing, whatever. Fantasy sucks anyways, but this is a big blow for the Packers and the Jets. If you don't know, within this trade, there was a clause within it with one of the second-round picks for this year that if Aaron played 70% of the snaps for the Jets this season, that Packers second-round pick that they got would end up becoming the Jets' first-round pick, and the Packers would end up having 2 first-round picks this year. Obviously, now Aaron not being able to play will stick a second-round pick, so that sucks for the Packers, but it sucks even more for the Jets. You kind of put all your eggs in one basket here with Aaron. You extend him, rework the contract, build all these different weapons around them. You got a great defense. Offensive line is, we'll figure that out. They'll have to figure that out. Great weapons. Brought a lot of Aaron's buddies in. Potentially was about to trade for another one of his buddies. So it's a tough situation for the Jets. But Zach Wilson's going to start over or start back again at quarterback, whether they like it or not. Right now, he's their guy. It's a tough because you can't go out and get a guy like, oh, you know what, this person's unhappy being here, let's go trade for him, because you still have Aaron, right? I don't think Aaron is going to retire after this. I think the whole reason of this recovery and process and rehab will get him back to playing another year, at least one more year. He's got to figure it out and kind of, fulfill his satisfaction of being able to play for another organization like this. And I bet you he feels like he owes something to them now after this injury. So he definitely probably will end up coming back. So I wouldn't bank on the Jets trading for a quarterback unless it's like a lower guy. And we'll kind of talk about some of the replacements that they can get, because right now there's not many guys out there that you look at and it's like, all right, this is a big upgrade over Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson, also a part of the organization for a couple of years now, knows the system, knows the playbook, been through training camp, comfortable with the receivers. Probably the best guy to fit in right there. Didn't look too bad in the second half. Obviously, we know his highs and his lows. We've seen his highs in college, and we've seen the lows in the NFL. Hopefully they can find that middle ground, maybe towards the higher end a little bit more, and get the best out of him, because at the end of the day, he was a top 3 pick for a reason, right? So, you just got to find a way to trust in him and, find ways. Or we can go full, first take, hot take, ESPN show and be like, are the Jets going to trade for Dak Prescott? Because Trey Lance is on the Cowboys. They traded for him. The Cowboys obviously didn't need Dak Prescott in week 1. Do the Jets trade for Dak Prescott? Or, we can be realistic and look at the guys in free agency like Nick Foles. Bring Phillip Rivers out of coaching retirement. Bring Matt Ryan out of semi-retirement. There was already a shutdown thing about Tom Brady. I'll tell you this as a former Patriots fan, lifelong Tom Brady fan. No shot in hell he'd ever do that. Sure, Tom's a guy that would come out of retirement and play, but if he's coming out of retirement, he's going to 3 teams. He's going back to New England. He's going to Las Vegas, the team that he owns, so he can play with McDaniels. Or he's going to San Francisco, back to his hometown. So, there's not a shot in hell that I was seeing Tom Brady ever make his way to the New York Jets. And maybe it's a person who really didn't care about the Jets when he was a little kid, but no, it's that was never going to happen. But I like the ideas. I like the fun ideas there. But the other guys, you can look at some of the guys you could trade for here. Jacoby Brissett, the backup in Washington. Obviously, we've seen what he's done as a starter in New England, in Indianapolis, other teams. I think the Cleveland, Miami, other teams like that. We've seen what he's been able to do. Somebody said this to me the other day. I think it was yesterday, and it immediately kicked into me. I was like, oh, shoot, this is actually a thing. Jameis Winston. Obviously, the Saints bring in Derek Carr. He looked okay this weekend. Threw it pretty well. Couldn't find too much red zone success throughout the game. They only scored 1 touchdown the entire game. So that wasn't as fun of a game there, the Saints and the Titans. But they bring in Derek Carr to be the new game manager on offense. Jameis was the guy. Jameis not going to be able to play now. Maybe the Jets are like, hey, we'll throw you this mid-round pick for Jameis Winston, and so that we have a quarterback that, has a lot of NFL experience, playoff experience. So that's a potential move right there that the Jets can make. So shout out to the person who told me that. He'll also like this one too. Maybe a Marcus Mariota finding over there in New York, another veteran guy that, just it's we're not looking at this as like Marcus Mariota is going to come in here and change the game for the Jets, but he could be a guy that, sure, he hasn't looked too great, but can definitely hand the ball off. All you got to do is hand it off to Dalvin Cook or Breece Hall, who looked really, really good in that game. But all you got to do is hand the ball off to him and let the rest of the team cook and figure it out through there. It's a tough situation. You can always see them doing a trade with the Titans for one of their three quarterbacks, whether it be Tannehill, Levis. I doubt he's traded. Willis would probably be the more realistic guy, I'd say. But then there's other teams around the league. Maybe a Trubisky from the Steelers could potentially go there. Teddy Bridgewater, he was a former Jets quarterback now with Detroit. You can see him going there. Andy Dalton, Carolina's backup quarterback. Maybe Drew Lock gets another chance as a starter in the NFL. He's the backup for Geno right now in Seattle. Maybe give him another shot. There's a bunch of guys that if you look at it that are around the league that you're like, okay, he's probably potentially a person that could get traded. I know Joe Flacco has recently been trying to find his way back into the NFL, telling teams that he's ready to go. And, obviously he's a former Jet, so maybe they want to bring him back in. I highly doubt it, but it's an immediate option, I guess. And he's worked with Zach Wilson before, so it could work out. But, obviously a tough blow for the New York Jets, who ended up getting a win on the kick return touchdown by Gibson, or the punt return touchdown in overtime by Gibson. This moves into the next point that I want to kind of make is, should we really be worried about some of these teams? And the first team that we could talk about being worried about are the Bills, right? You're playing a team without Aaron Rodgers now, with Zach Wilson at quarterback, and you turn the ball over 3 times in the air, and you fumble it once. Josh Allen does all of those turnovers, and it's like, all right, we understand, we know Josh Allen, how turnover prone he can be. We've seen he has like the most turnovers in the past 4 years in the NFL, or something in his first 4 years, something like that. It's some stat that it shows that he can't take care of the ball. And for the Bills defense, who played great for most of the part, right? I don't know. I don't think we should be worried about Buffalo. I think they should have found a way to win that game easily. That's not a discredit to the Jets at all, because their defense is really solid. Obviously, Jordan Whitehead, or I believe that's who it was, they got all 3 picks off of Josh Allen. That's insane that a guy got 3 picks off of a quarterback in one game. Yeah, Jordan Whitehead got all 3 picks. And then obviously we know DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner are pretty good on the other boundaries. So it's a good defense, but the Bills, hey, you had that game in your hands. It was handed to you. So should we be worried about the Bills? I don't think so. They got a good bounce back game this week against Vegas. They get to play at home as well. So look for them to bounce back this week for sure. Have a little bit more of an offensive, explosive game for them on that side. Another team we should maybe be worried about are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this weekend they had a rough game. They lost 30-7 at home against the 49ers, which, let's first point this out, the 49ers potentially are the best overall team in the NFL. I think that they are easily a top 3 team. I think that when you look at their entire offense, sure, you think of Brock Purdy, it's like, this guy's okay, but you don't need somebody so flashy. Ask Joe Flacco, how did he win a Super Bowl? He wasn't flashy. He made the right reads. He made great throws. He's smart. He could read defenses, and that's what Brock Purdy does. And when you have weapons around you like McCaffrey, Kittle, Debo, Ayuku had 2 touchdowns. You can start throwing other guys in. Elijah Mitchell can come in there and do something in the backfield as well. Juwan Jennings, Tennessee legend, can come in there and do something as well. You've got all these weapons on offense. And then your defense, you got Hufanga, Fred Warner, probably the best inside linebacker in football. Who I think you have Dre Greenlaw, who's another really good underrated outside linebacker. You got a really, really, really good team built around you. But for the Steelers' sake, it's always been a question for them, the play calling. What's Matt Canada going to do for this offense? How unique, how creative could he be with the offense? And he just never was. It's always the same thing. It's run, pass, pass, run, pass, run, pass. Like, it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And when you have spent a first-round pick on a quarterback and a running back in the past 3 drafts, right, you got to find a way to work around them. You got to steal in the draft in George Pickens, right? Sure, Deontay Johnson got hurt. That's really unfortunate. It sounds like he's going to be out for a couple weeks. Hayward's going to be out for a couple weeks. Now, I think he just went on IR today, I believe. TJ Watt had 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Like, he's unbelievable. Pat Pete is their number 1 corner right now, which he's way past his prime, but he can still get it done. Minka is unbelievable. It's just the defense shouldn't be the worry. And everybody's going to have a stinky week in the NFL. It just so happened that they played the 49ers week 1 and had their stinky week. But the offense, at the same time with Matt Canada making all these play calls and not really drawing up anything, not being creative, Kenny's got to make the throws. Kenny had so many open opportunities where he just airmailed it, underthrew it, just didn't hit his target, threw it behind a guy. And that's where the concerning part is on him. That was always his concern going into the NFL. That's why not many people in last year's draft were like, all right, you know what, we'll wait a year for a quarterback because we're getting Bryce, CJ, Anthony Richardson, those types of guys in the next draft. And then it's like, you know what, even if we don't do in that draft, we got Caleb Williams, Drake May, Quinn Ewers, Shadur wasn't at the time really known, but the rest of the guys in that next draft class that really will be the top line guys as well. But Pittsburgh took their shot on their quarterback. Obviously, Roethlisberger retiring played a big part into that one. So they kind of had to make an emergency draft there. They ended up signing Trubisky at that time as well, so they had multiple options with Mason Rudolph also being on the roster. I believe Josh Dobbs was also on the roster too. So you have 4 NFL caliber quarterbacks now. You roll with the young guy. He looked pretty good towards the end of last year, had a lot of promise going into this year, and again, rough week 1. I don't know if we want to overreact too much about it, but it was a tough weekend for Kenny throwing the ball. It was a rough weekend for all of the Steelers. Obviously, 2 of your best players getting hurt is not a good way to start your season out, but Pittsburgh, again, has a chance to try and bounce back now against a division rival this week. Another team we could talk about, maybe should we be concerned? The New York Giants lost 40-0 on Sunday Night Football, and probably the most boring game I've ever watched. It's got to be up there. We had some pretty boring games this weekend, but the Giants lost 40-0 to the Dallas Cowboys at home. Obviously, MetLife. It was a torrential downpour the entire game. Started off with a blocked field goal, return for a touchdown, and then I think a pick six, and then Tony Pollard had 2 touchdowns, and the Giants just couldn't find anything going. And a guy who has Saquon on his fantasy team sucks. It sucks for me. I'm not saying Saquon sucks, but it sucked for me. But with the Giants, should we be concerned after a 40-0 loss? The Cowboys' defense is solid. We figured that out this weekend. We all know how good Micah Parsons is. But a lot of the unsung guys making plays. I don't want to say we should be concerned about the Bills at all, the Giants at all, because they have Brian Daboll, their former Bills offensive coordinator. I think he can figure things out. They still have a good enough roster. Obviously, the downpour plays a part into it a little bit, because once you start to lose the momentum, it's really hard to kick it back on and get momentum again. So should we be concerned about the New York Football Giants? I'd say no. I think this is a testament now to Dallas and kind of thinking about how, everybody kind of wrote them off this year. The Eagles having the success they did, the Giants surprising a lot of people last year, and the Cowboys just not really living up to any expectations. I think a lot of people now can kind of look at it and be like, all right, well, hang on, this Cowboys team maybe has a chance to really make some noise here in the NFC East or the NFC in general. But I don't think we should be too concerned about the Giants right now in this facet. Maybe wait a week or two, and then if things, really don't pick up, then it's like, all right, was it worth giving Daniel Jones this kind of money and whatnot? but I wouldn't be too concerned right now. And then the last team we can kind of talk about being concerned about is the Seattle Seahawks. And a lot of people are really high on the Seahawks the past couple years. Obviously making the playoffs last year, losing to the 49ers in the first round. They bring back Bobby Wagner this year, and then they lose this weekend to the Rams by a couple touchdowns, I believe. They just couldn't find a way. Geno threw for under 200 yards. DK Metcalf is throwing temper tantrums all over the field, which that's not anything new, but he's going around stomping around and throwing people and pushing people for no reason and whining. Like, should we be concerned about this Seattle Seahawks team that has always been so well coached with Pete Carroll? Whether you have an opinion on him or not, it's always been well coached. Always have a really good defense. And then this Rams team where you have like 4 undrafted receivers and 2 of them get 100 plus yards receiving, and Tutu Atwell, and I don't even remember the other guy's name, but he had 101 yards receiving, I believe. Your number one guy, Cooper Kupp, is not playing. Van Jefferson, Florida guy, shout out, didn't even really do too much. Matthew Stafford's throwing for 300 yards. Should we be concerned about the Seahawks? And I would say, out of all the teams that we are kind of talking about, should we be concerned about? Yes, I think we should be concerned about the Seattle Seahawks here, because if you are losing to the Rams without their best weapon on offense and their defense taking a massive step down in talent-wise from what it was a year ago, not having Leonard Floyd, not having Jalen Ramsey, all these guys leaving this team, we should start to be a little bit concerned about this the Seattle Seahawks team. The big concern about Geno was, he had that great year. He had a little bit of a breakout, but how long was he going to sustain as a really good NFL quarterback? You give him the money, he's going to find a way to win you some ball games, but he's going to find a way to lose you some too. And I'm not saying this whole weekend's losses on him, but it's that's a tough thing to that's a tough pill to swallow if you're Seattle, to see your quarterback that you're paying a lot of money, instead of going into the draft and getting a guy throwing under 200 yards. I guess that's just a testament to the Rams offense or the Rams secondary. But when you have Tyler Lockett, who got hurt, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker, who didn't get enough touches, in my opinion. Right, you have all 4 of those guys. Noah Fant, you also get in that Russell Wilson trade. That's 5 weapons on that offense that he can throw to. He just couldn't find a way. Maybe it was drops. Maybe it was just inaccuracy. I don't know. I'd say if we're concerned about any of these teams that we talked about, the Seahawks would be the team that I would be concerned about the most, just because I was never too high on Geno Smith getting paid like he did in the first place, and now it's starting to backfire a little bit and realizing why. He was never a full-time starter in the NFL for the long haul. But those would be the teams I would put a little asterisk star mark next to. I guess another team we could talk about was the Denver Broncos, who in the first game of the Sean Payton era lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, which people are claiming one of the worst teams in football. They lost that game. I didn't watch it, so I can't speak on it, so I don't really know what to really point out within the game that was kind of concerning maybe. I don't know. But they play the Commanders, I believe, this weekend, so I'll definitely have my eyes on that game and get back to you guys on that, on what I think could be going wrong with this Broncos team, and especially if they lose this week, it could get really tough and really loud there in Denver. Moving to college football, we'll quickly go over some of these games, the important ones, that is. First of all, I want to say on yoursportsdigest.com, my top 25 is out. It's been out since Monday. I just forgot to post about it. I updated it today to make sure that everybody was aware that it's out. My top 25, the most prestigious top 25, the only top 25 that matters is the Your Sports Digest YSD top 25. So go check that out. Some teams will surprise you that are in there, maybe as high as they are. Where did Texas end up going up to in mine? Where did Alabama drop to? You'll just have to go find out. But this weekend they played each other, and man, oh man, did Texas look really good. Texas looked really, really solid, man. And, going into Tuscaloosa and winning is the hardest thing to do in recent time, let alone just play good, right? Texas looked really, really solid. Quinn Ewers played incredible. Xavier Worthy was awesome. That defense was playing really well. Should we start to be concerned about Jalen Milroe a little bit? I think that they probably should have went to a new QB at halftime, probably a Ty Simpson, Tyler Buckner. But when you look at it and you think about it, Nick Saban made him the starter for a reason, right? The other options he had, Ty Simpson, a 5-star recruit, right? Tyler Buckner has snaps in college football over multiple seasons. So should we, think that Milroe sucks? You can have your opinion, whatever. He's great on his feet. Arm talent, questionable. But there's a reason Nick Saban rolled with him in the second half again. It's because they knew what he could bring to this team. They know what he can bring to this team. And they believe in him, right? What kind of message does that send to your young quarterback who only has like 2 or 3 career appearances prior to this season in college football, being like, hey, yeah, you kind of suck. We got to bench you. That's like if last year Anthony Richardson during the Kentucky game after an incredible Utah game, not a good first half of the Kentucky game, they're like, yeah, we're actually going to go with Jack Miller, who's never played a snap of college football before, but we're going to bring him in and hope he could do something, or we're going to bring Jalen Kitna. Whether he's innocent or not, let's just gloss over that. We'll bring him into the game. He's never played a snap, but we'll let him go, right? So Nick Saban is a smart enough coach. I don't want to be the person who's ever questioning what Nick Saban does. I'm not that type of person, but maybe they should have gone to a different quarterback. Maybe they should have ran the ball a little bit better than what they did. That's my opinion, though. Some of the other games, Utah just barely escapes Baylor. I thought Cam Rising was going to play this game. He didn't. Looks like he'll play this week, I believe. So that'll be interesting. Utah was down most of the game, comes back late and beats Baylor on the road. Colorado looks awesome again against Nebraska, and by winning this game against Nebraska, they end up getting College Game Day this week against Colorado State, who is one of the worst teams in the Power 5. So that's awesome. There aren't totally better games on the schedule for game day this week than that. Ole Miss and Tulane. When I made my pick last week about Tulane, I thought Michael Pratt was playing. I had no idea he was hurt. The score was much higher, not higher, but the point differential was much higher than I expected it to be, and then it probably should have been 37-20. Like that's. If you watch the game, they scored multiple touchdowns in the final 2.5 minutes of that game. So it was much closer than it should have been. But, yeah, Tulane, obviously without their starting quarterback, it kind of hurts. Ole Miss erupted towards the end. Jackson Dart looked okay. He made some great plays. Judkins kind of got shut down for most of the part. But, good teams find a way to win. And speaking of good teams finding ways to win, North Carolina escapes App State in double overtime. They win that one. Please, God, somebody help Drake May out because everyone around him sucks. Tez Watkins, I mean, it's not his fault that the NCAA sucks and he can't play. Or, excuse me, Tez Watkins. Tez Walker. Tez Watkins plays for the Eagles. But it's so stupid that he didn't get to play or he isn't going to play and he's ruled ineligible. But, God, please somebody catch a ball or get open for Drake May. Like, this is unbelievable. He finds a way to escape and win that game. They get to do it at home against App State. Now they go and play Minnesota this week. Oregon escapes Texas Tech on the road. A couple key defensive plays towards the end of the game for Oregon that ends up getting them the win there. Washington State, who we talked about a week ago, Cam Ward. I was a truther of this man. We talked about it in the Pac-12 season preview. I'm a truther. They end up winning against Wisconsin and Luke Fickell at home, 31-22. He looks great. The whole team looks great. I'm a big Washington State fan this year with Cam Ward at the helm at quarterback. I'm super excited to see what this Washington State team can do in the Pac-12. Let's not talk about Southern Miss at all. I don't want to talk about it. Just know that they play Tulane this weekend, and it's a bounce-back time. If you're a Florida State fan, if you're a Florida State student, don't say anything to me. All right? thanks for our money and letting us come play on a big stadium. We'll be minding our business now. But that's it for the college football. That's it for football that I'm going to talk about. Now, if you are not wanting to listen to the rest of the basketball talk that I'm about to have here, you can skip to the next timestamp that I'm going to have in the description, where we are going to talk about the NFL and college football over the weekend. That'll be the best time for you to skip to if that's what you're wanting to just listen to. If you're not really caring about what I have to say about basketball, just go ahead and skip to that point. But we're going to go ahead and hop right into basketball here, because a couple of things have happened this week in the NBA circle and in the international circle. First, we'll kind of briefly go over two things that not as fun to talk about. First, Kai Jones, the one of the forwards for the Charlotte Hornets, had a video come out of him. Very concerning. If you don't know, just go look it up. It was very concerning, slurring a lot of words. Seemed like there was something definitely going on that he took in his body, maybe something going on in his head. I don't know what was going on, but it was very concerning to see that type of thing. Everybody was trying to jump into speculation what it was, and he came on the internet and said, "I'm fine. There ain't nothing wrong. I was just living life or whatever." I don't think that's what you were doing, but hey, if that's what you say you're doing, that's fine. And then something came out on Twitter or X yesterday, where somebody said something about his teammates Nick Richards and Mark Williams, and then Kai Jones bashes Nick Richards, saying that he's better than him or whatever, and then said, "Mark Jones, see if you can watch him do anything with a dribble pull-up jumper." And it's like crapping on his teammates, and I'm like, what the hell? This is odd. You're not good enough to talk like that about your teammates, especially Mark Williams, who is a higher draft pick than you, more highly touted than you are, and the organization likes more than you. So I wouldn't talk right there. You've been finding ways down in the G League. Obviously, something's going on in his head. I don't want to, put any words into his mouth or any speculation of what it is, but that's a concerning scene there in Charlotte. But there's already way too many things going on in Charlotte with, the Miles Bridges situation from a year ago, where he's suspended and did all that kind of stuff. And now he's got a new brethren in the domestic violence cases, because Kevin Porter – I shouldn't laugh. This is not a thing to be laughing about. Kevin Porter Jr. Over the weekend was arrested for – I guess it was the beginning of this week, Monday – was arrested for domestic violence charges against his girlfriend who plays in the WNBA. I cannot remember her name off the top of my head. I know it's a long name that I can't really pronounce. But yeah, there were very, very disturbing things that had come out about it. It was super disturbing to read. Very unfortunate situation. We hope everything's okay going on there. We hope the absolute worst for people in these types of situations. That if you're the person doing it, we hope the absolute worst for you. At least I do. I can't speak for everybody, but I hope the absolute worst happens to him. If everything that has come out is true, and he plays another game in the NBA, it's an absolute disgrace. But I'm not surprised, because Miles Bridges is going to be playing this year. And if I were to guess, Adam Silver's going to be like, "Hey, you know what? 6 games, and you'll be good. Come on back. 6 games. You learned your lesson. You did your jail time. Get on out of here." Instead, John Morant's going to hold a lighter that it looks like a gun on Instagram Live, and boom, 25 games, you're blackballed from the league. We hate you. You suck. You're getting all the coverage. Kevin Porter Jr. beats a woman. Come on. You'll be all right. Come on back and play. But all jokes aside, it's such a disturbing thing. Kevin Porter Jr.'s had some issues in the past. He originally drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers out of USC, was one of the top prospects in, I believe, the 2017-18 high school rankings, and then going into the draft class, he was one of the guys that were like, okay, this guy could really make some noise and be one of the underrated picks. Then had a whole temper tantrum in Cleveland where he stormed out, threw chairs at his teammates' lockers and stuff like that. And then I don't think they traded him. I think they just straight up released him. after that incident where he got into it with Bickerstaff, and you just can't do any of that stuff. Rockets claim him, hoping to change things. And then when him and Steven Silas got into it last year where he just walked out of the building and left the team in general, and there was a whole drama there. So obviously something's not right in this guy. He was not raised right, but something's going on in his head. I don't want to touch on it anymore. It's a whole sad situation that's going on outside of it. But, we hope that punishment is given where punishment is due. So you can't be doing that type of stuff. We have no room for that in sports or the world in general. But speaking of the world in general and basketball, the FIBA World Cup has finally come to a close. Germany wins the gold medal. Serbia gets silver, and then Canada gets bronze as Team USA didn't even make the gold medal game. They lost to Germany in the semifinals, had to play Canada for the bronze medal game. And, of course, in the most Alex fashion game of all time, Dylan Brooks scores 40 on Team USA. I wish I was joking. He scored 39 points on Team USA. Jaren was a coach's decision, do not play. Or DNP, and it was what is going on? Why is this happening to me right now? So yeah, Canada gets bronze, and I guess every comment that Noah Lyles made about this basketball team is not very good. And immediately after losing in the bronze medal game, the next morning, LeBron James is like, "Hey, don't worry, this FIBA shit don't matter to us. Just wait till we get to Paris." You can find out a Jay-Z and Kanye song. I don't want to say it, but you can find that song. That's what we're feeling next year in Paris next year. I kind of crafted a little bit of a roster that I think that Team USA – I can't believe I just said what I said. That Team USA should probably bring to Paris next year for the Olympics. And normally they bring about 12. They bring about 12 guys. They'll have 3 guys that are on what's called a taxi squad, which is basically they do it in soccer, I believe, or football. They definitely do it in hockey. I know that for sure. Basically where you can have certain players on this taxi squad that can, if there's any injury, any sickness, any personal thing that they have to miss the game for, you can transfer a guy from that taxi squad up to the big roster in order to play. Normally it'll be select team guys. I know in years past, like before Kyrie was on the Olympic team, he was one of those taxi guys. So, I mean, this is outside of those probably three taxi guys, which if I were to guess, it'd probably be like Anthony Edwards, Jaren, maybe a Bridges, De'Aaron Fox, somebody like that. This is my Team USA roster that I think if we bring this to Paris next year, this is the easiest gold medal we'll ever win since the Dream Team era, honestly, if this is the team that we bring. Barring any injury that happens in this season, hopefully nobody gets hurt ever. I don't like seeing injuries. That sucks. We're bringing a bunch of guards, but the guards that we're bringing are awesome. Bring us Steph Curry, which there's rumors that he's going to commit to playing for Team USA, so that shouldn't be an issue. Devin Booker, who was on the 2021 Olympic team that won gold during the COVID year. Kyrie Irving, bring him back. He was a part of the old Team USA team in 2016 that went to Brazil, maybe? Don't remember. He was on that team though, and he won gold there. And then 2 new guys at Team USA, or maybe Damian Lillard's on this team. Maybe I think Lillard might have played. Actually, Lillard played in 21, I believe. So I might be wrong there. So Lillard also as one of the guards. The newest guy though, and yes, it's a biasy thing, but I need to see him there. I need to. John Morant going and playing for Team USA. You need to get a guy that's going to be explosive and have a lot of fun and a playmaker who's not afraid. Like, hey, you know what? I understand that I don't need the ball in my hands the whole time, but when I do, I'm not going to have to shoot it every single time as well, because that was a big issue. And Kyle Kuzma, who will not be playing for Team USA, pointed that out on Twitter, and I could not agree with him more. And I was saying it throughout the entire time that this has happened. I love Jalen Brunson. I love Anthony Edwards, right? I love these types of players. But my God, they do not know when not to pass the ball or when to pass the ball. They don't know when people are in their spots and when they're not in their spots. It was so bad. They're playing hero ball the whole time. When Jaren has a mismatch, as he's 6'11", super lengthy, over guys who are like 6'7", he's posting up, and they're just not giving it to him. Instead, let's take a step back jumper. And it's like, come on, we need some unselfish players. And yeah, sure, Jaren can get a lot of criticism for his lack of rebounding. He's never been a good rebounder. He's never been a good rebounder at all. We all know this. Maybe you don't because nobody watches Grizzly games, but yet they still want to criticize us. But Jaren's never been a good rebounder. He's never been a center before. He's never had to play the center before. I always say Jaren could be a 5 in the NBA because of his size, his shot blocking, and his ability to stretch the floor is a unique way to play the 5. But you got to have somebody at the 4 that can rebound with him. And they never did any of that. Their 4 next to him was Josh Hart, which he's a good rebounder for his size, but not next to Jaren's size, and then Mikal Bridges. Like, that's not good. That's not good to play next to him. So he got a lot of criticism for that. But Jaren was probably one of the more unselfish players on this team. Him and Tyrese Halliburton were team-first players. I'm going to lay out everything on the defensive end of things. But when it comes to offense, let everybody else cook. If I can get my shot, I'll get my shot. I'm not going to hog the ball at all. And we need that type of player on this team. That's what Kuzma was kind of talking about. We need guys who are playing for Team USA that are not afraid to pass the ball, that are going to hustle, play defense, and not play for themselves and play for the country. And Devin Booker said, I'm in. I'll do it. So Ja being one of those guys who is one of the best facilitators and passers in the league, definitely need to get a guy like that on the team. Those are my guards that I'm bringing. Forwards, LeBron obviously is going to be coming and playing for Team USA. He said Kevin Durant's probably going to come play for Team USA as well. He said Tatum, who is also on those teams, that one of the gold medal teams, is going to come and play as well. And here's my other little dark horse here. One of the Clippers forwards are going to come play for Team USA, whether it be Kawhi with injuries or not, or Paul George. Last time we saw Paul George in 2016, he was a part of that gold medal team. Everybody knows Paul George's freak injury during a Team USA scrimmage back in 2013, 2014 with the broken leg. I think this would be a really good full circle moment. This is probably his last time he'd ever play on one of these teams. Or I wouldn't say probably. This is going to be the last time he plays on one of these Team USA teams. So if Kawhi is going to go, Paul George has to go in order to get another opportunity to kind of, have that full circle moment come back around for him. And then looking at the big men, the centers, Bam Adebayo, who's on the 2021 team, he should come back and play. Anthony Davis, LeBron said that AD is definitely going to want to come play, so that would be awesome. And then Draymond, he's been on the past couple Team USA teams, just a glue guy in the locker room. He's going to bring the defensive presence, whether you like him or not, and what you think about him. He's going to bring something to the Team USA team that they didn't even have anywhere close of on this team outside of Jaren, maybe Walker Kessler. But I think these would be good guys to have for this Team USA team. Like I said, the taxi guys maybe would be like a Halliburton, Fox, Jaren, Edwards, Bridges, like one of those guys. A couple of those people would probably do it and be those taxi squad players, I guess. But man, if you bring this Team USA roster out to Paris next summer for the Olympics, there's no shot that we're not winning it. Yeah, sure, I know Jokic is going to play for Serbia, and they got runner-up, and they looked really good. I don't care. I really don't. Because Anthony Davis can play on Jokic, and then boom, we have a much better offense than the rest of the Serbian team. Who else could you possibly throw? Oh, Jamal Murray going to play for Team Canada? That's fine. Dylan Brooks ain't scoring 40 again. I promise you that. As a person who's watched Dylan since his first career Summer League game, trust me, he ain't going to do it again. I promise you that. Who else I don't even know who else we could potentially talk. Oh, Greece. Giannis, his brothers suck too. It's not like it's going to matter. I think that this team, though, would be really good. And compared to this year's team, where in the FIBA, I have to say this again, the FIBA World Cup, younger guys. The Olympics, older guys. So if Ja doesn't get it, Tatum should definitely be on this team. But if some of the younger guys that you're like, oh, why aren't they bringing these guys in here? You got to think about it. This will be the last one that Curry ever gets to do. This will be the last one Kyrie will probably ever get to do. Same thing with Lillard, LeBron, KD, Kawhi, Paul George, AD, Draymond. Like the next time the Olympics are around, these guys are into their 30s or retired already, right? So this is their last real run together for Team USA until they pass it over now to Devin, to Tatum, to Ja, to Bam, to whoever else, Cooper Flag, Paulo, all these types of people that'll end up being in the next wave of Team USA history. This is the last wave for these guys. I think that would be a fantastic Team USA roster that no one was stopping. Shoot, you could put Steph Curry and LeBron on the team with this select team, and we would have run the tournament, right? Let alone you get all the rest of the All-Stars in the league. That would be insane. And then one last thing to note about the NBA. They just literally approved the ruling of this about an hour ago before I'm recording this episode, that they are starting to crack down on this little bit of a load management and resting policy. Obviously, they changed in the CBA this year. There's a new rule that if you do not play 65 games of the season, you will not be eligible for any postseason awards, MVP, any of those types of things. Well, they finally made the ruling and approved it. The Board of Governors did, that a team is unable to rest 2 star players in the same game moving forward. The all-star player, a star player is defined as somebody who has made the all-star or all-NBA team in the past 3 seasons, which, that can get really kind of touchy at first whenever you said the star players, who is really these types of people. Here are the teams that would fall underneath this category: the Celtics, 76ers, Warriors, Clippers, Lakers, Suns, Kings, Grizzlies, thank God, Bulls, Cavs, Bucks, Hawks, Heat, Timberwolves, and Mavericks would all fall underneath that policy. Again, it's just guys who've made an all-star team, or if you have multiple guys who have made an all-star team or all-NBA player, you cannot rest both of them in one game. So I think it's a great idea by the NBA trying to crack down really on people missing games, losing TV money, losing TV like ads and revenue and viewership because players aren't playing. You got to have some of these guys end up playing. But I'm super excited that that's there. The NBA is right around the corner. In less than a month from now, I believe the Mavericks and the Timberwolves are playing in Abu Dhabi. And then right when they start, the preseason starts, training camp opens up the first week of October. Things are starting to kick off in the NBA. I'm a big basketball guy, obviously, so this means more to me for basketball to be coming on, because as much of a football fan I am, I do enjoy football. I enjoy sitting down and watching football. You can't tell me you're sitting there on Sunday at like 2 o'clock and you're like, man, this is boring. This is so boring. On Saturdays, it's fun. College football is a little bit more fun for me, but the NFL, it's hard to watch a lot of the time. Like, I do fantasy to try to keep up with it more and kind of get myself to watch it, but it's so hard to watch. I'm so happy basketball's back, because basketball, I bleed baseball. Like, I'm watching the Red Sox lose to the Yankees repeatedly. It's like getting kicked in the wiener and the balls, like over and over and over again watching the Red Sox play, but yet I'll still do it because I am a massive, massive baseball guy. So I'll always watch it, and I'll always have fun doing so. So basketball coming back is a big thing for me as we turn the page into the next part of the summer, the fall. But now we kind of get to this part of the episode where I give my picks out. And normally I give out my picks based on the spreads and what I would like to bet. I have a public service announcement. I am the worst bettor in the history of betting. So I'm taking a break from that. I do not like seeing myself lose. That is so demoralizing. So instead, I'm just going to be picking games. NFL, I'm going to pick every single game in the NFL. And in college football, I am picking all of the games that are on ESPN's Pick'em and all the games that are within a touchdown point in the spread. I'm not picking the spread. I'm just picking winners here. So if you're trying to look for gambling advice and you're like, oh, Alex, why are you picking so-and-so? They're like -7.5 right now. Well, look, I'm just picking them to win the game. So let's start in the NFL. Thursday Night Football, the Eagles and the Vikings. The Eagles looked okay this week against the Patriots. Kind of a slow start, another rainy game. Vikings got a terrible loss to the Buccaneers. Give me the Eagles to easily win this game at home. They started out on the road last week. They're going to get back home. The fans are going to love that. Give me the Eagles there. Packers and Falcons. The Packers go on the road to Atlanta. Both teams winning their respective games the prior week. Give me the Packers to win this one. I like the Packers this one. Talked about this game earlier, the Bills and the Raiders. The Bills get to play their game at home. Raiders coming off a big win against the Broncos. I will take the Bills at a bounce back there. Again, see, that's a 9.5 point spread. I would never bet the Bills minus 9.5, but I'm picking them to win the game. Individual matchup, which, I forgot we should have probably talked about this team in the Should We Worry segment of the episode. The Bengals looked terrible last week against the Browns. They play host to the Ravens, who Lamar didn't look too great either. For this one, give me the Bengals. I want them to bounce back. I think they can bounce back. I think that last week Joe Burrow wasn't 100%, even though he said he was ready to go. I don't think he was 100%. So give me the Bengals to bounce back against the Ravens here at home. Seahawks go to Detroit. We talked about the Seahawks being worried earlier in the episode. Talked about the Lions last week on Friday after Thursday Night Football. Give me the Lions to win at home here. Colts go on the road to Houston and take on the Texans. Give me the Colts to bounce back win here. Sure, am I biased because I'm an Anthony Richardson guy? Yeah, I really don't care. Give me the Colts. Chiefs and Jags, 12 o'clock game on CBS. That's going to be the game of the week probably. Jags got a big win against the Colts last week. Chiefs obviously not looking so great against the Lions, but they were also missing Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, who now signed an extension for the next year, $25 million over 1 year. And then Travis Kelce probably going to be back as well. I like the Chiefs on the road against the Jags. I think this is a good game. I think it's going to be a really close game. I just think that the Chiefs are too good not to bounce back here. Jaguars, I don't think this is not a crapping on Jaguars segment because I really love Jacksonville a lot. I really think they're really, really good. But I think the Chiefs are just too good not to bounce back in this one. Next game, Bears and Bucks. Bucks got a big win over the Vikings. Looked really good. Baker said he was able to read all of the defensive play calls and signals that they were giving out, so that got them the win. The Bears had the number 1 overall pick in the draft last year for a reason. Ended up trading that pick, obviously, to the Panthers to get Bryce Young, but the Bears were terrible last year for a reason. They got killed by the Packers. Did not look good at all. I've been bouncing back and forth on this game. I kind of want to pick the Bears for a bounce back because there's a forecast of rain, and the Bucks last year was the worst team running in the NFL. Last week they only had like 40-something yards on the ground. So give me the Bears in a bounce back game for them. Kind of get the momentum rolling for them on the road in a potentially raining environment where they've won rain games before by running the ball a lot. The Chargers and the Titans are playing. The Chargers losing to the Dolphins last week in a very high-scoring game. Their offense, no problem. Their defense, got to worry about a little bit. Titans did not look too hot. Derrick Henry did not look great against the Saints. Tannehill threw for 3 picks. Give me the Chargers on the road here to get a bounce-back win. Giants and Cardinals, this is where the Giants bounce back. This is a nice game to have a little bounce-back for. The Cardinals obviously don't like winning football games. Josh Dobbs was their quarterback last week. I believe he probably is this week too. Again, this is going to be a Wednesday episode. Who knows what they end up going with, but I like the Giants to bounce back and win here on the road this week. 49ers and Rams, give me the 49ers every single time. Don't really care. Don't need to break it down any more than I need to. The 49ers is the pick here. The Aaron Rodgers list Jets going into Dallas and taking on the Cowboys in Jerry World. Give me the Cowboys here, riding high off the momentum from last week. Jets obviously are going to be the underdogs in most of the games now from here on out, but I like Dallas to continue their momentum a little bit while the Jets start to try to figure things out a little bit more. We talked about this game and alluded to it a little bit earlier. The Commanders and the Broncos are playing, and I'm going to do it. I was never too high on this Broncos team. I'm never too high on Russell Wilson in the first place. So give me the Commanders going on the road. Sam Howell didn't look too great this past week, but the defense is really solid. If the Broncos can't find any way to get down the field, the Commanders are going to take advantage of it. The Commanders have the best special teams duo in in the NFL in Tress Way, and obviously my boy Jeremy Reeves. So, yeah, give me the Commanders to go on the road and beat the Broncos on Sunday. And then Sunday Night Football, the Patriots play host to the Dolphins. Dolphins getting a win against the Chargers. Patriots, we talked about them with the Eagles. Give me a sneaky pick here for the Patriots to win against the Dolphins. I think, and this is not a discredit to the Dolphins, it's a divisional game, which means it means more to any of these teams. And the Patriots looked good in the second half last week against the Eagles. They were able to move the ball down the field. Mac Jones was slinging it a little bit. Defense was finding ways to pick it up. And if he can play good defense against that Eagles offense, I think you're going to have a good chance on playing a little bit better against this Dolphins offense. My only concern is Tyreek Hill potentially going for another 200 yards receiving again. But I'm still going to take the Patriots here at home. They love winning at home. The Dolphins, when I was a Patriots fan when I was younger, never won in New England. So give me the Patriots at home. And then Monday night, we got two games on Monday night on ESPN and ABC. First game at 6:15, an NFC South matchup. The Saints going into Carolina, taking on Bryce Young in the Carolina Panthers, who Bryce looked a little bit little rough, but it's his first career game. I'm not too concerned about him. I think he'll be fine. I'm concerned about his offensive line. We talked about it last week. I'm concerned about them, but I'll take the Saints on the road. They looked okay against the Titans. I think this is a good chance for them to explode a little bit more. Give me the Saints on the road in Carolina to go to 2-0 on the year on Monday night. And then the last game on Monday night, the Browns and the Steelers, another divisional matchup. The Steelers, we talked about them, and then the Browns got a big win against the Bengals at home the week prior. Myles Garrett's hitting crossover moves, trying to make moves on the offensive line. He is feeling it right now, and Nick Chubb is really, really good. And for a team last week that let up over 180 yards rushing, coming and facing Nick Chubb is a tough task. Now, this is your prototypical, they let up a bunch of rushing yards last week. That means they're going to let up a bunch next week. I think they're going to shut down Nick Chubb a little bit better. I think the game planning might be a little bit better, but I still think the Browns beat the Steelers here. I know I told you guys not to worry about the Steelers, but I think the Browns riding a momentum. The Steelers losing a little bit of it because of the injuries. I like the Cleveland Browns to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday night. Moving to college football, these are only a couple games here that we're going to talk about. I know we're creeping towards the hour mark, and I'm trying not to let it go over there, but it's probably going to go over. So hope you enjoy a little bit of a longer episode here. The first game going to be Iowa State going to Ohio, and you know the drill. I'm going to do it every single time. I think Ohio is fantastic for being in the MAC. They got their quarterback last year in Curtis Rourke. He's back for this team, and I think he's going to make an impact after beating FAU last week. Iowa State, yeah, sure, they lost to Iowa. They looked okay, but the Ohio Bobcats is a tough barn to go into and win in. So give me Ohio to win that game. Give me Penn State on the road against Illinois. That's an easy pick for me. Penn State, one of the better teams in the country right now. Drew Aller looks really, really good. Nick Singleton had 3 touchdowns last week for Penn State. Illinois losing to Kansas last weekend. Almost came back and won that game, but you still give me Penn State on the road. Also give me LSU on the road against Mississippi State. That's an easy pick as well. I'm not too concerned about LSU on the road against Mississippi State here this week. Next game moving on, Kansas State going on the road to Missouri. Kansas State got a big win against Troy. I know it doesn't seem like it's a big win, but it was a big win for their standards against one of the better teams in the Sun Belt in the group of 5. Missouri's won the past 2 games. They looked okay, but Kansas State's just another demon. I'm a big Kansas State believer. I think Kansas State wins this game pretty easily on the road and takes care of business against Missouri. Next game to look at, we talked about it a little bit. We just kind of briefly mentioned it. Minnesota going to North Carolina to face the Tar Heels. I like UNC here, kind of having a little bit of a bounce-back performance compared to last week against App State. I like them there in this one. Next game to talk about, to have a pick for, is going to be Rutgers. And I like this Rutgers team a little bit. They're one of those like scrappy teams that they just play hard. They play hard, and I really do appreciate teams like that play hard. Rutgers, obviously, we know a lot of the controversy that's happened with them, but Virginia Tech didn't look too great last week. I'm not too big on them, so give me Rutgers at home for that one. And then while we're at it, give me the Southern Miss Golden Eagles against Tulane Green Wave. I don't care. Give me them. I will ride with them all day. So give me the Golden Eagles once again. And then moving on to the next team. Sorry about that. Somebody was about to break into my house, it sounded like. So I got to check things out. But real quick, to finish this off this episode, give me South Alabama on the road against Oklahoma State. I don't know what it is, and maybe I'm a sucker for the Sunbelt teams, and I have a little bit more belief in them than I do. But Oklahoma State could not throw the ball last week. South Alabama can run the ball pretty well. Give me a little bit of an upset from the Sunbelt, and I'm going to keep riding with the Sunbelt until I can't anymore in a lot of these games. So, yeah, I'm going to ride with my boys in the Sunbelt with South Alabama against Oklahoma State. We're also going to stay in the Sunbelt for the next two games. James Madison and Troy. I'm going to pick Troy to beat James Madison. James Madison got a big win against Virginia last week. We talked about Troy losing to Kansas State, but Troy was winners of like 12 straight prior to the Kansas State game. They're a really good team. They're probably the best team in the Sun Belt. And sometimes it takes some of those games where you play a really tough team to find your identity. And they got a really big matchup against JMU here this week. I'm going to take Troy at home, though. And then another team in the Sun Belt, Louisiana, heading on the road to face UAB of the American Conference. Trent Dilfer, the head coach over there. Give me the Raging Cajuns on the road. I know UAB has a lot of hype because of the head coaching situation. Louisiana didn't look too great last week, losing to Old Dominion. I like a bounce back from the Raging Cajuns this week on the road there. Give me Vandy on the road at UNLV. SEC against Mountain West, don't really care. Give me the SEC team every single time in that instance. Backyard brawl. Give me West Virginia beating Pitt. This should have been the game that College Game Day went to. Give me West Virginia to beat Pitt. West Virginia didn't even look bad against Penn State in week one until the very end of the game. Pitt has been okay. Lost to Cincinnati last week. Almost came back and beat them. They beat Wofford first week. West Virginia, I like this one a lot here. They got to go to Morgantown. It's going to be a tough place to play. West Virginia, they hate Pitt over there in West Virginia. So give me the Mountaineers to win that one. Also at 6:30, another game, a very underrated game at 6:30. I really hate that Florida's playing at 6, so that I can't put my full focus and attention into this game. But Syracuse and Purdue, two teams that I really, really love. I'm a big Syracuse guy. I'm a big Hudson Card and Purdue guy. But I'm going to take Syracuse on the road here. And it may sound insane, but something to me about this the Syracuse team, if they can get this win against Purdue, they got to play Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State in a 3-week stretch after Army next week. That's going to be a big momentum chaser going into that little stretch right there. So give me Syracuse on the road with my boy Garrett Schrader at quarterback and LaQuint Allen, who is not too bad back there in the backfield. I do like Hudson Card and Devin Mockabee a lot, though. I just think Syracuse is a really, really, really well put together team with Rondé Gatson as their main tight end target there. Give me TCU here for my second to last pick on the road at Houston. Sure, Houston looked great against UTSA in the first week. They lost to Rice last week in double overtime, which they were down 28-0 going into the second quarter, and they put up 28 unanswered right back. I'm still going to ride with TCU. Sure, they look absolutely terrible week one against Colorado for the most part, but this is still a decent football team. Give me TCU in Houston's first taste of the Big 12 for the first time. TCU on the road there beating Houston. And then the last pick of the night is going to be Fresno State and Arizona State. And I like Fresno State a lot. They got to go to Arizona State. Jaden Rashada, the quarterback at Arizona State. Arizona State losing to Oklahoma State last week. But I love Fresno State. They played really well against Purdue. They barely scraped by Eastern Washington last week, but I don't really care. Mikey Keene is throwing it really well, and I really like one of their receivers in Eric Brooks for that team. Almost 100 yards receiving last week, had 170 in the first week. Give me Fresno State on the road against Arizona State, and those are my picks. That's going to be it. I appreciate you guys listening. This has been a long episode. Again, if you skip to this part, go back and listen to the very beginning of the episode where I explain a little bit about what I'm doing now with these episodes. Going to try it out for a couple weeks here to see what people think and what I like. But it's going to be a little bit longer episodes each time, but it allows you to space it out into multiple parts of your day or week if you would like to. So you're not all having to sit down at one point and having to listen to it. You can kind of break it up if you would like to. Maybe these will run a little bit longer if I want to talk baseball. Maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll kind of play around with it and see what we like to do. But I've taken up enough of your time here on this Wednesday or Thursday, Friday, whenever you listen to this. I appreciate you listening, though. I always do. I really need it right now. I really appreciate it. All the love and support that you guys will show or have shown, the past couple of weeks on these episodes and stuff like that. It's greatly appreciated, more than you guys ever will know. But I will see you guys again next Wednesday, maybe next Thursday. I don't know. We're figuring that process out. I'm your host, Alex McNinch, and you just got your Sports Digest.